So this is a brief overview of Trello. Trello is our pipeline and transaction management program that we use. This is what your screen will look like when you first log in. If you star any of your boards, they will show up at the top, recently viewed, and then all of the workspaces that you have access to. Yours will not have this many when you first get started, but you can create new boards by clicking on this little square down here, and you can use Trello for other things as well, kids, games, events, other things that you need to keep track of. Use the system, and you will have a board specifically for pipeline and transactions. So this is an example of one of the boards. So you will have a buyer column and an upcoming listings column. So we can think of Trello as a big whiteboard with a bunch of sticky notes on it that we can move around to these other columns as we go through the transaction. So for your buyers, once these buyers are under contract, then we can move them over to earnest money. And then once they're in the inspection phase, we can move them there, and so on. Appraisal and financing, clear to close, closing, and post-closing. And then same thing for your upcoming listings. Once they're active in MLS, we would move them to this column. And then once they're under contract, to earnest money, and so on. So each of these little cards is where all of the communication and all of the tasks for either buyer or seller live. So all of your communication with your buyers as you're going through the home search process, you can keep in here. This is where, as the transaction coordinator, I keep track of buyer documents that are signed. And then once under contract for transaction management, all of the tasks for the transaction are in here so that we are on track. And all of the communication, like I said, for buyers and for listings is kept in Trello on these cards. So that way, as the transaction coordinator and the agent and marketing, everyone is on the same page and knows what's going on. So you can add notes for your upcoming listings, for a timeline, and when you're going to have photos taken, and when you plan to be coming soon on the market, all of that. And then for buyers, you can keep track of properties you see, write contracts on, and then same thing for once under contract, all of the communication for the transaction is kept there. This board is set up a little bit more detailed. So we have earnest money, inspections, appraisal and financing, clear to close and closing, and then a post-closing column. And each agent can kind of customize this as you would like. I will show you another board here in a second that's not as detailed, but you can let me know how you would prefer it to be. We will look at another one here. This one goes from buyers and upcoming listings, active listings, and then just to a column for under contract, closing, and post-closing. So you can kind of decide, do you want a column for each specific phase of the transaction, or just more general as under contract, and then once they get to closing, to move them to the closing column. So that is Trello, just an overview of what Trello is, and all of the other columns here I will go through in another video. The client for life and other columns that we have, and then also how to create these buyer and listing cards from templates that we already have. So that is all for now.